Like a lot of you guys, I completely hate the standard water test videos. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to grab a phone, dive underwater until it stops working, but what would actually be useful to know is what the IP68 waterproof rating actually implies on your Note 8, and the results are rather interesting, especially on this smartphone. Let's dive right into the video. So the first, probably most important realistic usage case scenario is using the Note 8 in the shower. If water is being poured on the smartphone, unfortunately when it's on, it becomes completely unusable. It almost detects the water as fingers in itself, not only meaning that your own fingers aren't detected, but also meaning it can end up clicking something you really didn't have any intention to. Having said that, literally the second you stop pouring water on it, even if droplets still remain on the screen, the phone is surprisingly completely usable. You can do pretty much all the flicking, typing, gaming that you would otherwise be doing. But one massively interesting thing about the Galaxy Note 8 is that in a sense it is the most waterproof device because, combining the usage of that S Pen, you can actually use it underwater. Taking the S Pen out while the screen is off essentially enters a writing mode where the screen is not responsive to anything but the stylus itself, so the fact that the water acts like a fingerprint doesn't actually matter at all. Now you might be aware that when you put a smartphone speaker into water, it completely stops working. It sort of splutters and coughs a little bit, but there's almost no volume. However, there's actually a solution, and this didn't work with some of the older versions of Bluetooth, but with the Bluetooth 5.0 and its strength of transmission in the Note 8, you can actually just connect a Bluetooth speaker. Immersing the device underwater, whilst you won't technically be able to operate it, the Bluetooth connection will still work fine. So you could put the phone on a playlist, take it into the shower, continue to take notes while you're in the shower, whilst your music is still playing automatically. And if you are really keen, you could even plug in a pair of earphones, and that will also work completely fine. Now, one of the main limitations of this smartphone's waterproofing capability is the fact that you simply cannot use the USB Type-C port until it's completely dry. So that means that you cannot charge the phone, and if you try, it'll simply just not even transmit. You'll just get a notification saying there's moisture in the port and that you need to wait till it's completely dry. So if you do need to urgently top up on charge, the best way to do that is with a wireless charger, and that does still work when it's underwater, which is pretty cool. So if you're wondering about how the Note 8 stacks up as an underwater camera, well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, you cannot actually use the shutter button because of course the screen can't be activated underwater, but on the other hand, you can use the volume buttons. They are completely responsive, and they can also double as your shutter, so if you did need to poke the phone underwater and take a photo, that is one way of doing it. Now in terms of how underwater photo and video appears, essentially it is the same 4K quality that you would have over water, except it's got this slight cloudiness to it. The same is true for the front camera, and in both cases occasionally they can just completely fog up. So the conclusion here is that they are functional, but not exactly ideal. So as you might have guessed, because the touchscreen responds to water, it's a bit tricky to watch video underwater. Now why exactly you might want to do this I'm not too sure, but just in a usage case scenario, it doesn't work too well. If you're on the YouTube player, for example, it'll just simply bring up the menu as if someone is constantly touching the screen. Having said that, a lot of offline video players have the option to be locked, which essentially means that when you start playing the video, you tap the lock icon and then all of a sudden you can only unlock it by tapping it again. This means that while the water is touching all different parts of the phone's display, it doesn't initiate a response, and you can continue to enjoy content while connected to earphones or a Bluetooth speaker. So that is the Galaxy Note 8 when it comes to waterproofing. As we said, there are caveats. You're clearly not getting the full smartphone experience while immersed underwater, but actually, with some clever workarounds, you can get pretty close. The combination of the IP68 rating, latest version of Bluetooth, as well as that waterproof S Pen, essentially gives us a whole range of possibilities. Thanks a lot for watching, I'm Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.